On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, Grady Dick had himself a good night against the New York Knicks. The rest of the team, not so much.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Thursday, March the 28th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the website that sucks at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us, of course, in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. The link is in the description of the podcast, and it's a great place to be as the Raptors are suffering franchise historic losses at home to the New York Knicks and other times as well. Come hang out. A great place to come and spiral or think about the future or talk about that really nice dish you made at home. It's a great place where all conversations are welcome. Link in the description is always free to join. Would love to see you there. Of course, you can find the show for free at your favorite podcast app of choice. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Always appreciated when you support the show, however you support the show in its audio forms. Plus, we're on YouTube. You can go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and never miss an episode. It'll give you a little push notification that says, hey, stop what you're doing. Sean's talking about your favorite terrible basketball team, and you can drop everything you're doing and listen to me talk about your favorite terrible basketball team. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And we'll get started here, picking up the pieces after a 145-101 loss at home to the New York Knicks. Still without OG Anunoby, still without Julius Randle. No problem whatsoever against your skeleton Raptors. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. We're going to get into the one good thing from this game, get into some sort of theorizing on where this roster stacks up among all-time bad Raptors rosters. Talk a little Precious Achiuwa. We got good, bad, coming up too. Well, let's bring in our guest. It's Jamar Hinds, the god of the game recap over at Raptors Republic. Jamar, only 9 games left, brother. We're almost there.
Well, tell me how you really feel with that intro. Listen, at least it's been a while since the Raptors have taken a 40-point loss at home, okay? You have to go back a whole 3 weeks. That's like 400-something hours, right? There's a big gap in between. So, it's not as bad as you think.
No, it was, I believe that loss took place before my men's league season started, and tonight is week 4 of my men's league. So, that's a lot of time that's passed. Yeah, You're right. Yeah, it's been eons, frankly.
They were due for this.
Boy, oh boy. Let's get the good part out of the way because we should not scare everybody off immediately and get into some positive stuff. Grady Dick had himself a really nice game. 23 points, 10 of 18 shooting, 3 of 6 from downtown. 1 rebound, no other stats, a -26. You'll take it. It's pretty good. Continues a run of Grady Dick kind of getting back into form here. He is, I think, the one prevailing positive takeaway from this one, right, Jamar?
Yeah, and you like to see that, and he's been showing this, but you like to see that he's scoring in a variety of ways. It's not just, coming off screens like a Kyle Korver from the 3-point line, someone who he's, talked to and probably taken some elements from his game. But he's using fakes, he's hitting from mid-range, the cutting is beautiful. Having a guy like Kelly Olynyk especially helps because, since Kelly's been traded to the Raptors, he and Grady, especially when they were both coming off the bench, but now they're both starting, so obviously they're still playing together. But Kelly has really done a great job of, it's like they're on the same wavelength, finding each other on these cuts and things like that. Bruce Brown also gave him a nice give and go, I think, in the first quarter. So it's good to see that Grady can score in a variety of ways as opposed to just shooting the 3. He's also been an underrated finisher. We talked about that a couple of pods ago, and I don't know his numbers at finishing at the rim lately, but when he was on his tear in February, when he was averaging like 11 or 12 points a game, he had a stretch where he's probably shooting like 80% at the rim. So it's just nice to see other parts of Grady's game form, and Obviously, that's the one positive thing I want that you're probably going to get out of this skeleton lineup is that it's giving Grady tons of minutes to play, and his confidence has to be pretty high to end the season. And I'm sure the Raptors will have some sort of off-season plan for him to even get better. So that type of stuff is nice to see. I mean, we don't have much to go off of, so we have that at least.
Yeah, I mean, your point about him scoring in a variety of ways, I think, is a really sound one, right? He almost is threatening with like having a bag, which is pretty awesome, right? Like, obviously, you'd like to see a little bit more playmaking coming off of that. You'd think, it's not been, like he's sort of taking the ball and sort of walking at all these creation opportunities. He's very much finishing off plays, but he is doing it in a ton of ways, right? Stepping into that mid-ranger super comfortably, moving around with the obvious catch and shoot gravity that he has, diving into the paint off of cuts, catching and going, finishing in like a whole bunch of various contorting fashions around the rim as well. Like, I think I'm very encouraged about where Grady Dick is headed. He's shooting inside 3 feet this season per Basketball Reference, 63%, which isn't like amazing or anything like that. For a guy of his sort of slight build, I think is pretty impressive and encouraging as a start as a rookie. I expected him to kind of be one of these dudes who mostly just shoots threes, and maybe you dabble with the odd mid-ranger that you step into when run off the line, but he's been a way more diverse scorer than I think was ever expected. And I think he's flashing all sorts of, ways in which he's like a perfect Darko ball player. You saw exactly what they were thinking when they took him to play in this system. And I'm really excited about what he can do next season. I still probably think it's best if he's coming off the bench. Like, I don't think, his recent run of play here or what he's done as a rookie suggests to me that, you just let Gary Trent Jr. walk and have Grady Dick take that starting job. I think you either want an upgrade on Gary or just have Gary be your stopgap while Grady continues to be a bench dude. But the signs there of a guy who is going to be a long-term starter in his career are very much there. He's just like a really nice fourth or fifth guy to help amplify others. And once the other guys he's amplifying are like NBA level players, baby, watch out. It's good stuff. I want to sort of quickly take a second here and ask you this question, Jamar. Sure. Other than Grady, not a whole lot positive to take from this game. They lost by 44 points. 44 points is a lot to lose by, no matter who you're throwing out there, obviously. But as far as like all-time Raptors rosters that have been thrown out there for an extended period, we're not talking like last game of the season, all the 10-day dudes jump in. We're not talking Omar Cook hours here necessarily. But is this the worst roster the Raptors have rolled out over a consistently prolonged period in their history? It's got to be close, man. This is some rough stuff. 12 losses in a row. Hopefully some reprieve coming soon with Quickly and RJ. I'm going to get into that later on in the show, but right now it is a pretty grim scene, no?
It's definitely up there. I'm trying to think right now of like 3 other horrible Raptors periods. The first one would be around 2011, the first year that Bosch left. I think they went on a 13-game losing streak that year. They went 22-60, I believe. But in that era, guys weren't out as much as they are now. And that's not a shot at anything. Obviously, everybody has their reasons to be out, but that's just the situation. Sure. It was like you had DeRozan in his second year, and then after that, it was just a bunch of guys. That was a pretty bad roster. And then 06, first full year post Vince, you had your obviously up and coming star in Bosch. That was his first All-Star year. So, and he played the whole season. We have that version in Scotty, but Scotty's out. So probably not that roster. I might have to go back to the year before Vince, 97-98. Still their worst record ever. 16-66, I believe. And that T-Mac was like in his rookie season, just coming out of high school. And then it was, just a bunch of dudes. After Damon Stoudemire got traded, it's very hard to name like 5 good players from that team. So that's probably what you're up against right now. So And yeah, Gary Trent Sr. on that team. We have Gary Trent Jr. on this team. That's probably what you're battling against. It's up there. It's up there. But those are like the three eras that I immediately think about in terms of this is probably the worst basketball this franchise has seen in terms of roster.
I think that 05-06 year is a pretty good one to pull. Just going to a box score from game 73, so the same game as last night, from that season for the Raptors, where what was the record? That was the year they won the lottery and got Bargnani. They finished that season. I don't have it in front of me here. Very badly. The lineup they finished that season with, or at least were playing heavy minutes in that stretch of games: Morris Peterson, Charlie Villanueva, Mike James, Pop So, Eric Williams, with Joey Graham, Hoffa Araujo, Andre Barrett, and Matt Bonner getting heavy run off the bench. This was a particular game, a double OT loss to the Hornets, like the Chris Paul, David West Hornets in the very early days. This is the game I'm pulling from. That was their lineup in that game. And that, I think, is like, you take that roster against this roster, who you got, Jamar?
Honestly, I mean, Charlie V was second to Rookie of the Year. Mo Pete was a starter for a while.
He was fine.
We basically all our starters are basically out. Like Olynyk was coming off the bench, he started. Grady was coming off the bench, he started. So it's like I still might take that roster. I mean, like,
I can tell you one thing for sure, Jamar. No one on this version of the Raptors is putting the ball in the hole at an incredible rate, quite like Mike James, who in this game I've highlighted, game 73 of the 05-06 season, 5 of 25 from the field, 15 points, 10 assists, an absolute king gunning for that 20-point.
That's Dion Waiters numbers. That's Dion Waiters numbers, where I'd rather go 9 for 30 instead of or 0 for 30, sorry, 0 for 30 instead of 0 for 9, because if you went 0 for 9, that means you stopped shooting. You lost confidence. I
wish there was a Mike James on this team, man. Yeah, the 5 of 25 is a legendary line. No such guy on this team. Kobe Simmons, a 1 for 6, maybe flirting with Mike James territory if he scales up that usage over more minutes. We'll see. But yeah, that's the territory we're talking in here. It's one of the worst rosters we've ever seen in the history of the Toronto Raptors. And that is, I guess, something. Hang the banner, I guess. We'll come back on the other side, Jamar. And we're going to talk about a guy who's not on the Raptors anymore, Precious Achiuwa, who had himself a game last night in his return to Toronto. We will talk about that and our overall thoughts on Precious Achiuwa and whether there's seller's remorse there from the Raptors. We'll get to that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little bit further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive, Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store all built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. And you can also find the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds of towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Today's show is also brought to you by friends over at Amazon Fire TV, which I have a fondness for because it's what my parents watch TV on. And look, when you're someone who has parents who technologically challenged, there's nothing worse than them having TV that is very hard to figure out. No such issue with Fire TV. I bought it for them. They stuck it in their TV, and it works beautifully. They never have had to call me to troubleshoot one time. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us here at the Locked On Podcast Network. You can find this mug on Fire TV. That is the best sales pitch I could possibly come up with. Check out Fire TV channels or on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Back at it here with Jamar Hinds of Raptors Republic, the god of the game recap, as we break down the Raptors' 145-101 loss to the Knicks. We're done breaking down the game at this point. We'll talk about other stuff, big picture storylines, such as Precious Achiuwa in his return to Toronto. Comes out, has himself a really nice game. 19 points, 12 boards, 3 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 8 of 13 from the field, 6 offensive rebounds to continue his run as the NBA's best offensive rebounder since joining the New York Knicks. Quite the glow up for Precious with the New York Knicks. And look, we always knew this kind of sort of potential possibility was there with Precious, a guy who's immensely athletic, who can jump out of the gym, who's an unbelievable individual defender, all that stuff. And it kind of brings up the question now, Jamar, having seen what Precious has done with the Knicks, is there maybe, do you think, some version of seller's remorse maybe seeping in for the Raptors front office here? Should there be, or is this just the price of getting Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett in the door? Is that trade basically something you're going to feel good about no matter what happens with Precious Achiuwa?
Number one, forgot the poster at the end of the game. I don't know who he dunked on, but I'm sure Precious loved that.
If I'm being real, Jamar, was I paying full attention to the end of the game? Absolutely not.
Actually, I was, because I was curious to see if the Knicks were gonna break the Raptors record for all-time worst loss period. I think it's 46 points. So I was kind of monitoring that. I did that for the New Orleans game too, where I'm like, okay, it's getting kind of close. So that was my entertainment because I'm a sicko. But anyway, to answer your
right, you belong on this podcast. It's a podcast for sickos by sickos. Cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you, appreciate it. Well, to answer your question, I mean, maybe a little. Obviously, there's a price to get Quickly and Barrett. Would it have been better? And cap people, don't come at me because I don't know the contracts. I'm sorry, but would it have been better for, like, say you swipe Precious out and put in a Chris Boucher? He's probably not going to be with the team next year anyway, and do that instead. Yeah, sure, hypothetically, but probably they didn't want him. So it's just, at this point, it kind of is what it is. Precious as a starter for the Knicks, because he started a few games when they were really injury riddled, when Mitchell Robinson and even Hartenstein was out a little bit. I think he's averaging like 12 and 10 and 1.8 blocks as a starter. So those are really good numbers. And then you add in the good defense, the offensive rebounding. I mean, these are things Precious showed. It's just he showed it in flashes. And again, and I've brought this up many times, but I'll just never forget that one possession against the Sixers where he pulled up for 3. And I thought that we really had something in that moment. And that was the absolute peak of Precious Achiuwa in Toronto. And yeah, you had the ups, you had the downs, you had sometimes he had those possessions where it just felt like he was trying to do way too much. I haven't really seen a lot of that with the Knicks. It feels like he's fit a role perfectly with them, and good for Precious, good for Precious. And yeah, it's just the price of getting Quickly and Barrett, who both have been really good for the Raptors. So it's not like we it feels like a pretty win-win trade. I mean, regarding OG's contract, and Flynn's now in Detroit. So it's funny that Precious is the one guy that played in last night's game.
Right.
The one guy from the 5 players involved in the trade. It's crazy in itself. But yeah, I don't think the Raptors front office should feel like, oh man, we really let one get away type of thing. It's just, you got 2 really good players back that are going to be core pieces of your team. I mean, you got to give something to get something,
I fully agree. I think, there would be a certain place for Precious on this team, I think, although his 3-point shooting has not been there with the Knicks, and I just don't know if that's ever coming back to the level it was at during that stretch in the 48-win season a couple of years ago. And if it's not, like, his fit on this Raptors team remains pretty untenable, right? They just can't afford to have more non-shooters. And maybe there's an argument to be made that, you keep Precious, you don't have Kelly Olynyk as your backup center, and you have Precious, kind of be your backup 5. Maybe you can make something happen there. I'm still of the mind that Precious just is not a full-time 5. I know it's worked with the Knicks, and I know that's where he's played primarily. And I know that's frankly where it seems like Darko was trying to slot him in as well, but he doesn't do center things very well. Still, he crashes the offensive glass. That's fantastic, but I still think his best role, if there is a role, is kind of as a slashing 4 who ideally can space. And I just think within the Darko system, it wasn't really going to work. That's clearly a Knicks system that is designed for Precious Achiuwa and a coach in Tom Thibodeau who is going to be predisposed to giving a dude who gives a lot on the defensive end some extra burn. And, you can kind of live with his offensive foibles because Jalen Brunson's there to kind of clean up all the messes, right? And so I just think because of the context within which Achiuwa was operating on this Raptors team, the way they want to play, the way it felt like he struggled to, fit into that system, I think it is just very much like a context-based stretch here for Achiuwa. And, team context is team context. Yeah, you'd like your team context to always maximize every player, but that's not always going to be the case. Guys are going to find new roles elsewhere where they're better optimized, and that's great for him. But yeah, Quickley and Barrett, like those two dudes are awesome, and I think you're perfectly comfortable with them being on the team, despite the Raptors being in dire need of 6'9" defensive wing types, which Precious very much could have been if given some more burn. But I don't know if it was ever quite there with this team. And so I'm not too upset about it. I guess like quick toss up, like just you're given your druthers. Would you rather have Kelly Olynyk or Precious Achiuwa as your backup center going into next season? Those guys are like polar opposite types of players. Curious where you come down on that.
That's an interesting question. I think Kelly fits Darko's system better, especially obviously with the offensive playmaking, the 3-point shooting, stretching the floor, stuff like that. And it feels like, but his weaknesses are kind of Precious's strengths.
Yep.
Where much better defender, better rebounder, a shot blocking presence. That's actually a really interesting question, man. Damn. I mean, I think I would have probably hoped for it to work out with Precious over Kelly, and that's only because of the age.
Sure.
Because Kelly's like a good 8 years older, maybe even more. That's really the only reason. From a basketball fit, it's so different that I can't. I don't even know how to pick one.
Because it's real apples and oranges. Yeah,
they're both extremely important. One offensively, one kind of defensively, and toughness and physicality and stuff like that.
Ironically enough, I think Kelly is the kind of guy that Precious would have actually thrived playing next to, right? Like, you slot him in as a 4, and he can compensate for Kelly's lack of rim protection, kind of be there as a safety defensively, compensates for the bad rebounding that the Raptors have been sort of rolling out with Kelly at the 5 as well. That's a kind of an interesting one. But yeah, again, cost of getting RJ and IQ, I think, right? And maybe if you go back and retcon the trade and sort of think about the way things were framed at the time, was Precious a necessary throw-in if the sort of consensus was, RJ's is just like a salary cap matching vehicle in this trade and not really an asset. I think that he's become like a very clear building block since acquiring him has certainly painted things in a different light. And so, yeah, you can quibble and say, could they gotten that deal done if it was Otto Porter Jr. in there as salary instead of Precious Achiuwa? Maybe, but ultimately, I don't know if it really matters. And I don't think Precious Achiuwa is enough of a total game changer for this team or any team to really lose too much sleep about it, despite him being really fun and good and punking the Raptors last night. We'll come back on the other side. Jamar rounded out with the good, the bad, and the to leave you off and send you off into your long weekend. It's all coming up in just one sec. Today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Look, sometimes it's just really nice to talk to somebody. Getting the opportunity to talk to somebody about what's going on in your life, what's making you feel uneasy or anxious, what, your big decisions you have in life, your relationships, things like that. It's a really valuable thing. You can get perspective on the things going on in your life from someone who has no baggage. And therapy is a wonderful thing to try if you're looking for some sort of guidance in your day-to-day life. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Wrapping it up here with Jamar Hinds from Raptors Republic, breaking down the Raptors 145-101 loss to the New York Knicks as we get into the good, the bad, and the I don't know. The way we round out every game recap show here on the pod on the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game, a thing we liked, a thing we didn't like, and a thing that's got us a little bit intrigued about the most recent basketball game we saw. Let's get into it. What's your good here, Jamar?
Sure, I have a good one. And it's probably the second best thing from this game, most likely. But shout out to probably future head coach Garrett Temple.
Hell yeah. I'm loving the Garrett Temple renaissance.
Yeah, 15 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, played 27 minutes, 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 6 from three. Had a and 1-3 for a while until the Knicks challenged it, and that didn't happen, but still went in. But it's the first time that Temple has scored in double figures since Valentine's Day 2022. So it's been a full 2 years since he scored in double figures. Ironically, that was against the Raptors. He was playing for the Pelicans, and ironically, that was a game the Pelicans won by 30. So that's kind of the trend we're going.
God, the Pelicans just own their asses, huh? Man,
it's crazy. But yeah, I just, especially the 3-point shooting, you know, it does really, everybody credits Temple for like finding their way in the league. Like Javon Freeman-Liberty did it, Grady Dick did it. It just feels like this guy is going to be in like 3, 4, 5 years from now. He's going to be like the lead assistant coach on some team. Then he's going to be the head coach. I will not be shocked at all. He kind of like carries himself as that way anyway. But you know, if this was the last time he scores in double figures in an NBA game, it was a glorious one.
You say that, but, you know, we asked the question earlier, does this Raptors team have a Mike James who can put the ball in the hole at an incredible rate? Maybe, just maybe, that's Garrett Temple as he pushes for one last contract down the stretch. Maybe he tries to average 20
Garrett Temple.
I got to see, what would it take for Garrett Temple to average 20 points a game this season? How many games has he played? He's played in 20 games, so it's going to be tough. You would have to have like the last 9 games average like 40 a game, probably. I mean, get him there. Feed him. Let's go. What else do we have to root for? Love it. Garrett Temple rocks. And, you know, honestly, people clown that signing like, oh, another old guy. But I do think there's been like a real obvious value to having Garrett Temple on this team. You know, the vibes have maintained at a pretty decent level considering all that's befallen the Raptors this season. And it's not all on Garrett Temple, of course, but I think having him just as like a constant sort of source of positive energy on the sidelines, there's no way that's not a good thing for a young team going through it a little bit. So shout out Garrett Temple. We love it. Go feed him. Let him take 30 shots next game. What do I care? My good in this game. Let's go Javon Freeman-Liberty again. He's looking tight, man. 5 of 9 in this game, 14, 5 and 3, getting some rim pressure going. I continue to think of all of the fringy guys on this team, he is the clearest potential NBA player for the long haul for this team. He's under contract for next year. I did a whole segment on him a couple days ago about how impressed I've been with a lot of the stuff he does and just his sort of, you know, the way he slides his feet defensively, the way he is just big for that position. I am enjoying the JFL experience and hope to see more of it, not just in Summer League, but going into next season, hopefully with a secured roster spot. He's one of these dudes, you know, everyone picks their guys. I think I'm hitching my wagon to JFL, much like I hitched my wagon to Justin Champagnie recently, the most recent guy of this ilk who I hitched my wagon to. Hopefully it goes better for Javon Freeman-Liberty than it did for Justin Champagnie. What you got for your bad in this game?
Man, no, to no fault of his own. It's just an unfortunate moment. But pretty early in this game, Ochai Agbaji going up for the lob comes down really hard on like his back/hip area. You could just hear him screaming in pain, and it's just like this season's already been rough as it is. It's just another rough moment. Obviously, everybody got really quiet. I haven't really gotten much of an update. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, that was a pretty rough moment for something that you can actually control. And I feel like I'm ranting more about as much about him as you were about Malachi from time to time. But man, sometimes it's rough to watch Jalen McDaniels play basketball.
Oh, he's really bad.
there is a possess. It's crazy because there was a he had a bonehead kind of charged offensive foul, and I tweeted and remind you, this is a team skeleton roster, and even so, even him getting these minutes, I'm just shaking my head. And then a couple minutes later, to end the third quarter, he has a possession where he gets the ball, he travels, they didn't call it, then he loses it, he gets it back, then he decides to take a fadeaway over, I forget who, like he's a number one option in the paint, and it's just like all glass, no rim. I posted the video on my Twitter because I was just disgusted in the moment. And I don't know, he has these stretches where he tries to make plays and tries to take shots like he's like the number one offensive option, averaging 25 points a game, and it irks me more than, like, probably in the last decade, this guy has irked me more than any other Raptor. It really bothers me. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky guy, and I don't have a lot of negative things to say. And he's got me in that mode, man. Or it's just like, when I see number 2 on the court, it's just like, oh God. And it doesn't matter how many guys are out. I still have the same reaction. I'm like, there's nobody else. Can we get Jemias Ramsey back or something like that? I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. And if I rant about him at any point while this season is going on for the rest of the season, which is probably just one more pod since I'm on bi-weekly, feel free to stop me. I don't want to keep doing this, but yesterday he really made me shake my head. And I'm not the only one, because I saw people is like saying the same thing. It's like, yeah.
Oh yeah, Jalen McDaniels might be the guy I was most wrong about, not just this year, but maybe over like the last decade of Raptors basketball. I was like, he's going to come in, he's going to be a positive force as like a bench wing on these teams. He's going to tie lineups together. Could not have been further off on that one. My God, what a disaster. He is not the Mike James of this team, even if he might want to be. There's no
I
ball
do
going
not
in
want to
the
see him take 25 shots.
There.
I do not want to see him take 25 shots. Okay, let's just put it there.
Ooh, he might. Yeah, he's bottom of the list of guys I want to see take 25 shots on this team, without a doubt. Maybe that's a podcast for another day. My bad. Also, Ochai, it just sucks to see. You know, I suppose it's like a slight silver lining that he, cleared X-rays, didn't have a fracture in his hip. Sounds like a hip contusion, so maybe looked and sounded worse than it actually is in practice. You hope that's the case. It's a big offseason for Ochai Agbaji coming up. Jack Armstrong commented on the broadcast. I don't think it's crazy to say that, like, this summer Ochai is getting in the lab to try to extend his NBA career. He's going into the last year of his rookie deal, or I guess the third year of his rookie deal, but there's always rookie options and stuff to be declined. Feels like he's been around longer than just 2 years.
Yeah.
But still, like, for carving out a place on this team, ensuring he's around the long haul, like, this is a big, big summer for Ochai Agbaji, and you hope he can go into it at full health. Best wishes to him, and hopefully we could see him again before the end of the season. Fingers crossed there. What's your from this game, Jamar, to round things out?
I'm going to let you go first because I have one of those thought-provoking questions again.
Ooh, I love thought-provoking questions. My I'll be quick. It's nothing to do with this game. It's just I'm very excited and encouraged, and not even encouraged, just intrigued to see just what an infusion of entertainment value bringing Quickly and Barrett back into the lineup is. I feel like we're in this sort of barren hellscape of basketball, and those two dudes are very good basketball players. Drop them on this team. They still probably lose most games, but I do think they'll have like more of a puncher's chance of keeping things close, of keeping things competitive. And I just feel like it's going to be a bit of shock to like have gone from watching this version of the team from the last couple of weeks to seeing those guys in there doing their thing again. I very much look forward to it. Hopefully it's very, very soon. Get me your thought-provoking question here. What you got?
Listen, I've put a lot of thought in these segments the last couple of pods. The pizza party ranting and
The pizza party so long ago.
the Ramses at the best dunk by a 10-day. So I put a lot of thought into this stuff. Today I'm wondering, okay, Raptors are now on a 12-game losing streak, right? Their remaining 9 games are versus Philly, versus the Lakers, at Minnesota, at Milwaukee, hosting Washington, which might be the answer to this question. Hopefully, especially if Quickly and Barrett are back. Taking on the Pacers here, at Brooklyn, at Miami to end the season. 9 games. The majority of that are against teams in postseason contention. 12-game winning streak, right? Losing streak right now. Will they win another game this season? They're not going to end the season on a 21-game losing streak, right? That Washington game at home, that seems like to be the one to get. Like, if they don't get that game, they're not going to get any game.
I mean, and the Nets almost suck, man. The Nets are terrible.
That's true. That's true.
Beat this skeleton team 96-88. Not exactly like a resounding victory.
So it's the Brooklyn game and that Washington game, and this skeleton Raptors team on a back-to-back almost went to Washington and won the game. They were leading for a big portion of that game. So that seems to me to be the game where at that point, let's say they lose the next 4, they probably will. At that point, they'd be on a 16-game losing streak. Ugh. I don't even know what the record is for the longest losing streak in Raptors history. I don't know if you know that up. Where's Keeks when you need her? But yeah, it's just I wonder how close the Raptors are with toying with that. But I feel
17
like
is the longest losing streak, by the way.
Okay, so that would
97-98 season.
Okay, so they really need to win that Wizards game because that would tie the record. So hopefully, but the next time I come back here in 2 weeks, hopefully this losing streak is no more because that would be April 11th, and we would have at that point they would have been on a 19-game losing streak if it continued. God. So
okay,
that's my I am hoping that that's not the case.
I will say, I think they're winning at least 1 game. I think they're winning at least 2 games. I'm going to go out on a limb, Jamar, and say they finished the season 3-6. 3-6. Bold move, I know, but this is just like a regression to the mean thing. You simply can't lose all of these games. They're going to get Quickly and Barrett back. They're going to get, I think they get that Wizards game. I think they get the Nets game. And then I can't decide where else they pick one up, but I kind of think those last 2 games of the season, that's what I'm saying. Last 2 games of the season against Miami's just not taking things seriously at the moment. And I don't know, maybe they do some standing chicanery in there and they're trying to line up a matchup. They're like, oh, we got to get the Bucks again. We got to figure out how to get the 7 seed exactly. I wonder if some standings, chicanery, and I couldn't find a different word for chicanery. Why would I find a different word for chicanery? Chicanery is a great word. But one of those 2 games, I'm expecting just a Quickly outburst. He drops 40 and they win one of these games. Surprisingly, 3-6 to finish the season. Jamar, book it.
I can see that. That would put their final record at 26-56.
Great.
I mean, it's the first time in 12 seasons the Raptors have lost 50 games. So I mean, there's a long stretch. Sometimes you took all the winning for granted, but there's a long stretch of consistent good basketball here in Toronto.
Never take the Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and into the post Kawhi era for granted ever, because it was the greatest thing to ever happen to any of us ever. We're gonna leave it there. Jamar, you got anything you want to plug for the good people out there?
You can follow me, Jamar BH, on my Twitter. That's JAMARBH if you are listening. I don't have anything coming up for the rest of the week, but hey, Blue Jays season starts today. So if you're a baseball fan, you have a nice little switch of pace for a little bit.
Locked on Blue Jays. I'm sure no one will have any sort of feelings of despair about this year's Blue Jays team, right? Everything's good. Everyone's feeling great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be positive here.
You've come to the wrong place. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for following, subscribing, rating, reviewing. We're taking the tomorrow off for Good Friday. I got some family coming over and whatnot, so I'm going to take the day. We'll be back again next week. and we will have ourselves a full slate of podcast action for you. Follow, subscribe, rate, review. I think I already said that, but do that.
Shoot the
as
ball.
Always. Shoot the ball? I'm going to shoot
Yes.
the ball. Okay, I'll shoot the ball. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
I think that one
actually went in. I think that went in. I did it. It's an Easter miracle.
See, you just needed me to tell you to shoot the ball. We got to video review that one, but I'm pretty sure that one went in. I don't think that one was a fake. I don't think that one was like an air ball switch. I think that one actually went in.
I don't even care that they've lost 12 games in a row now. I'm thrilled. I'm on cloud 9. Let's go.